Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching your Top Think Tanks review. I'm your host, Bryce Dolan. Now, today on the show, we're going to look at 5 different top 50 United States think tanks and look at the top stories from each one of their websites. To begin our show today, Human Rights Watch said the Saudi Arabia-led coalition killed several dozen civilians in 3 apparently unlawful airstrikes in September and October 2016. The coalition's use of United States-supplied weapons in 2 of the strikes, including a bomb delivered to Saudi Arabia well into the conflict, puts the U.S. at risk of complicity in unlawful attacks. The attacks underscore the urgent need for foreign governments to suspend all arms sales to Saudi Arabia, and for the United Nations Human Rights Office to send additional investigators to Yemen to carry out credible investigations of alleged abuses by the coalition, the Houthis and their allies, and all other parties to the conflict, Human Rights Watch said. Saudi-led forces are bombing civilians in Yemen with newly supplied U.S. weapons, said Priyanka Modaparthi, senior emergencies researcher at Human Rights Watch. The Obama administration is running out of time to completely suspend U.S. arms sales to Saudi Arabia or be forever linked to Yemen wartime atrocities.
يعني الساعة 3 إلى 5 فجرا وأنا جالس في الكنتيرة هذه. سمعت الضربة خرجت بيتصلوا لي قالوا ضربوا الحفاء. ناس كده فقد راسه وناس بعض أعضاء جسمه يعني رجل أيديه.
بعدها طلعنا الصبح الساعة 9 وصلنا ربينا وقدرنا السنة مفحمين كمبرنا شوية جمعوا الناس والطائرة وصلت ضربت بين الناس والناس الذي هرب والذي توفى والذي جرح لا عندنا مواقع ولا عندنا أي حاجة وإنما إحنا مزارعي بعد حالنا نحفر لنا بير نتزرع ونشرب ماء وهم جو يعتدوا علينا هكذا.
This is exactly why Obama did not want 9/11 victims' families to be able to go to court and sue Saudi Arabia for 9/11. There are a number of other countries that could do just the same to the United States. Now next, the Council on Foreign Relations has an update from Syria. Foreign involvement in the Syrian civil war has significantly increased since the conflict began over 5 years ago. In August 2016, Turkey conducted an offensive with international coalition forces to retake the border town of Jarablus from the self-proclaimed Islamic State. Russia began its military intervention in support of President Bashar al-Assad's regime in September of 2015. In August 2016, US-backed rebels with the support of coalition airstrikes liberated the strategic northern city of Manbij from the Islamic State. The rebel victory dealt a major blow to the group, effectively cutting off smuggling routes to the north and supply routes between Aleppo and Raqqa. Syrian government forces have been making advances in the fight against the Islamic State, with notable victories like the seizure of Palmyra, an ancient Syrian city that had been occupied by the group for nearly a year. Aleppo, Syria's largest city, has been besieged for more than 4 years as Syrian government forces and rebels fight for control. The fighting has increased recently, with the death toll in the month of August 2016 alone standing at 448, including 100 children as of August 28th. As government-aligned forces close in on the opposition's last redoubts in Aleppo, rebels have called for a ceasefire to evacuate civilians. Efforts to reach a diplomatic resolution have been unsuccessful. Geneva Peace Talks on Syria, a UN-backed conference for facilitating a political transition led by UN Special Envoy Staffan de Mistura, have thus far not been successful in coming up with a political solution, as opposition groups and Syrian regime officials struggled to find mutually acceptable terms for resolving the conflict. In October 2015, the United States, Russia, and European countries invited Iran to participate in negotiations, renewing hopes of reaching an outcome. Although the Obama administration expressed willingness to work with Russia and Iran, it has ruled out the possibility of a return to status quo under Assad. So essentially, everybody involved in the Syria conflict wants it to end, but unfortunately, all sides of this conflict, which it's not just a two-sided conflict, ladies and gentlemen, there are a large number of different groups fighting in this Syrian conflict. But the problem is nobody wants to compromise because there are certain circumstances that each group wants to implement if they were to essentially be in charge or win this conflict. And every other group is not agreeing with their condition, with anyone else's conditions. So that is really what's bringing this conflict or dragging this conflict on. The US refuses to let Assad remain in power. Russia doesn't care if Assad's in power as long as ISIS is out. And that's the whole point of the rebels, and the government forces are also fighting ISIS, and ISIS is fighting them. Everyone's just fighting everybody for Syria. So until I think we can come to a compromise between all of these sides of this conflict, which isn't likely, this Syrian conflict isn't going to end anytime soon, unfortunately. But we'll keep an eye on Syria and Aleppo and any other areas of interest of the Syrian conflict as they come available. Now next, Freedom House reports on November 26, 2016, Cuban graffiti artist and dissident Danilo Maldonado posted a video of himself on Facebook mocking Fidel Castro's death. In the selfie-style video, shot near the Hotel Habana Libre, Maldonado called Castro a yegüe, or a mare, and called on the public to celebrate his death. He later spray-painted on a wall near the hotel. Danilo's mother said he was beaten and dragged across the floor in a police station in San Agustin, Havana. In 2014, Danilo was imprisoned for 10 months for planning to release 2 pigs with Fidel and Raul written on them. In response to Cuban authorities arresting the political dissident Danilo Maldonado following Fidel Castro's death, Freedom House issued the following statement. Authorities arrested Danilo for expressing his disagreement with the Cuban government in a creative and peaceful way. The arrest being an example of the government's sustained effort to limit free speech, said Carlos Ponce, Director for Latin America Programs. Democratic governments and international civil society should press the government to release Danilo and end its frequent arrests of those who attempt to speak freely. So, should Danilo suffer some consequences? In my opinion, yes, but not to this extent. You can't graffiti a wall of a hotel and not expect to get punished. But, that being said, you shouldn't be sentenced to prison for it. It's like burning the American flag. You can do it, but you're gonna get fined, not because you're burning the American flag, but because you started a fire in the middle of the street or started a fire on the sidewalk. You're gonna get the same ticket if you lit a piece of paper on fire or a piece of furniture or a piece of clothing. That doesn't make making or burning the flag illegal. So that doesn't make what he is doing illegal. However, him spray painting a wall is graffiti. So yes, he does need to be punished in a sense. He needs to possibly be fined for that, but not even close to prison, because that's just vandalism. That's not really anything else. So hopefully Danilo will get released soon. Now, the Center for American Progress discusses the need to protect LGBTQ rights. Throughout the past half-century, advocates in the United States have helped build a foundation of local, state, and federal laws to protect historically marginalized communities from discrimination. Despite the significant advancements of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer or LGBTQ rights over the past decade, however, LGBTQ communities continue to be excluded from many of these protective laws. While same-sex couples now have the freedom to marry nationwide, LGBTQ people remain at risk of being fired from their job, denied housing, profiled by law enforcement, or kicked out of a restaurant or an office simply because of who they are. More than 40% of lesbian, gay, and bisexual workers report experiencing employment discrimination at some point in their lives, and 90% of transgender workers report experiencing harassment, mistreatment, or discrimination at work, or have tried to hide who they are to avoid these experiences. And unfortunately, anti-LGBTQ discrimination continues after the workday ends, with LGBTQ people and families reporting discrimination in the housing market, schools, the criminal justice system, and public spaces, including restaurants, retail stores, service centers, and healthcare offices. 19 states, the District of Columbia, and hundreds of localities have taken steps to protect LGBTQ people by adding sexual orientation and gender identity to their non-discrimination laws. Another 2 states fail to explicitly protect transgender and gender non-conforming people, but do protect residents on the basis of sexual orientation. A majority of LGBTQ people, however, live in the 30 states that still lack clear and explicit discrimination protections, and many live in jurisdictions, such as North Carolina, where legislatures are actively fighting to pass and enforce statewide legislation that preempts localities from creating LGBTQ inclusive protections. So, although there's been some breakthrough on the LGBTQ rights and the LGBTQ community, they are still not done with the fight. So, if you're an advocate for these LGBTQ community and these rights, make sure you don't stop advocating, don't stop speaking up, because it has yet to be normalized, so to speak, or the rights and the protection laws that these people deserve have yet to be implemented, and that is not right, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody has the right to be who they are. Now, to end our show today, the Pew Research Center shows that not as many people think poorly of the new president-elect Trump. Nearly a month after Donald Trump's election as president, the public views his transition to the White House less positively than those of past presidents-elect. And while expectations for Trump's presidency have improved since before his victory, about as many Americans say Trump will be a poor or terrible president as a good or great one. The latest national survey by Pew Research Center, conducted November 30th through December 5th among 1,502 adults, finds that 40% approve of Trump's cabinet choices and high-level appointments, while 41% approve of the job he has done so far and explaining his policies and plans for the future. In December 2008, 71% of Americans approved of Barack Obama's cabinet choices, and 58% expressed positive views of George W. Bush's high-level appointments in January 2001, prior to his inauguration. Similarly, higher shares approved of the way that both Obama and Bush explain their policies and plans for the future than say that about Trump today. Overall, 35% of Americans think Trump will be a good or great president. 18% say he will be average, while 38% say he will be poor or terrible. However, these assessments are far more positive than they were throughout the campaign. In October, just 25% of the public said Trump would make a good or great president, while 57% said he would be poor or terrible. Now, Republicans expressed more positive views of a Trump presidency than they did in October, while Democrats have a less negative expectations. 2/3 of Republicans and Republican-leaning independents now say Trump will be a good or great president. In October, fewer Republicans said this. Now, in October, 89% of Democrats and Democratic leaners thought Trump would make a poor or terrible president, with 74% calling him terrible. Today, 64% of Democrats view his prospective presidency negatively, with 45% saying he will be terrible. So although there's a large majority of people out here in the United States who think Donald Trump isn't going to do well, that number was larger before he won the election. So now that he's won the election, there's still a large group of people who don't agree with him and think he's going to be bad, but that group of people has grown smaller. So in a sense of becoming one and united here in America and coming together under our president-elect, whether we agree on it or not, this national survey by Pew Research Center shows that America is slowly growing into the idea of Trump being the United States president. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to look into this survey and its final results, and if you want to look into any other of these articles that we covered on the show today, feel free to look in the description below. The links will be posted and can take you directly to the articles you want to see. While you do that, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can get notified every time a new video is posted. Give us a like on our Facebook pages for our top think tanks, top intelligence agencies, and top human rights organizations. Like all three of those pages so you don't miss a video or any articles that get posted. And follow us on Twitter. But thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. That does it for your Top Think Tanks review. I was your host, Bryce Dolan.